You know that feeling? Paycheck lands, you feel okay for like a second, and then poof.
It's just gone.
Right. Whether you're fresh out of uni, figuring out your first budget, or you've got some fancy job title.
Like senior synergy consultant.
Exactly. That whole where did my money actually go feeling is, well, it seems pretty universal. And sure, we can point fingers at high rent, inflation making everything cost more, just existing, basically.
The usual suspects.
Yeah. But today, we want to dig a bit deeper than that. We're looking past the obvious stuff.
We're going for those hidden reasons the source talks about.
Exactly. Why you might really be broke consistently. Not some big conspiracy, but maybe some, surprising habits. Some are even kind of funny when you think about it.
And fixable, hopefully.
Definitely fixable. That's the mission here.
Oh.
Understand why you might feel perpetually broke using what our source lays out. So let's jump in.
Okay. Sounds good. It's a problem a lot of people grapple with, this financial slippage thing.
For sure. So point number one the source brings up might sting a little. It's financial illiteracy.
Oof. Yeah.
We spend ages in school learning, calculus, Shakespeare, stuff that, let's be real, doesn't always help pay the bills.
Right. Important subjects, maybe, but not directly about managing money day to day.
But the actual nuts and bolts of money, like how does credit really work? Compound interest, budgeting 101, often it's just radio silence.
It really makes you wonder about educational priorities, doesn't it? You'd think basic financial survival skills would be, crucial.
Totally. The source has this pretty blunt analogy. It says, if you're spending more than you earn consistently, that's not necessarily poverty. It's
bad at math, I think was the phrase.
Yeah, bad at math. Which is harsh, maybe, but it highlights a fundamental gap in understanding, right? Not just about having less, but not getting the number.
It shifts the focus inward, doesn't it? From external lack to internal know-how, or lack thereof.
Exactly. We're kind of sent out there without the right map, We know we need to get to financial stability, but the navigation tools are missing. And then the source mentions these almost like old wives' tales about money, stashing cash in a sock drawer.
Or getting hot crypto tips from your barber.
Right. Who might be great at fades, but maybe not the best source for investment strategy.
So financial literacy isn't just nice to have. It's framed as the actual cure here, not just trying random stuff.
Precisely. Instead of just flailing around.
So why do you think people rely on, their barber instead of seeking out, actual financial education? Is it intimidating?
Maybe. Yeah, it could feel less scary than walking into a bank or signing up for a course. Or maybe just easier, less effort.
Could be. Okay, what's next on the list?
This one's relatable. Champagne taste on a Gary budget.
Huh. Okay, I know this feeling.
You're just browsing, right? Maybe online, maybe in a store. And somehow you walk out with those limited edition sneakers.
Or the latest Bluetooth speaker, or that weird little USB fan for your desk.
That you use maybe twice. The source says it's often about wanting to feel a certain way, like feel rich or successful, even if your account balance is screaming otherwise.
That's deep. It's the psychology of spending, isn't it? Less about need, more about feeling, aspiration, maybe even just boredom sometimes.
Totally. And the source points a finger at social media here. Big surprise.
Oh, yeah. The endless scroll of perfect lives.
Constant feed of curated wealth. People on yachts, fancy watches, $1,000 coffees.
While you're maybe contemplating the nutritional value of instant noodle water.
Pretty much. It creates this totally warped baseline of what's normal, makes your own reality feel lacking.
So what's the solution offered? Just stop looking.
Basically, yeah. Live within your actual means, ignore the noise. And I love this line from the source. Humility is cheaper than debt.
Ooh, that's good.
And it doesn't accrue interest.
That's powerful. Simple, but powerful. Focus on contentment, not comparison. Big long-term win for your wallet and probably your sanity, too.
Okay, next idea. Your money has no job.
Interesting phrase. What does that mean?
It means if you don't tell your money where to go, it'll just wander off. Usually somewhere unhelpful. Like impulse buys, late-night sushi deliveries you kind of regret in the morning, collecting streaming services like Pokemon.
Guilty. Disney Plus, Jampi, Netflix, Crunchyroll. Do I really need all three?
Probably not. The idea is every single dollar should have an assignment. Rent, food, savings, fun money, whatever. But it needs a purpose.
So budgeting, essentially, but framed differently.
Exactly. Without a plan, money just sort of evaporates. The source compares it to unsupervised kids at a party.
Oh boy, that sounds chaotic.
Right. They might, start a small fire, financially speaking.
Okay, got it. So how do people start giving their money jobs? Is it just tracking?
Yeah, that seems to be step one. Just figure out where it's actually going. Then you can start being intentional, directing it.
So budgeting isn't about being restricted. It's about giving direction, like a traffic cop for your cash.
Perfect analogy. Being proactive, not reactive. Making choices that match your goals, not just letting spending happen.
Makes sense. What's the next pitfall?
This one's about appearances. Mistaking appearance for wealth.
Ah, the looking rich trap.
Totally. We see someone decked out in designer gear, maybe driving a flashy car, which might even be rented, right? And we assume they're loaded.
But the source argues they might actually be.
Broke. Or close to it. All show, no substance.
And contrast that with someone maybe in a plain t-shirt, shops at thrift stores, but is actually financially solid.
Exactly. It debunks that whole idea that looking the part equals being the part. In fact, trying too hard to look rich is a pretty fast track to becoming broke.
It's like thinking wearing gym clothes will magically make you fit without actually working out.
Yeah, perfect. The outward display doesn't change the underlying reality.
So why are we so obsessed with looking wealthy? Status.
Probably. Social pressure, wanting to project success. But the source's takeaway is crystal clear. Invest in assets, not aesthetics.
Right. A solid savings account or investment portfolio might be invisible.
But it provides actual security, peace of mind. Way better than a fancy handbag you can't really afford.
True wealth whispers. It doesn't shout. It's in the balance sheet, not necessarily the wardrobe.
Which flows nicely into the next point, short-term thinking.
Okay. Impulse control issues.
Basically, yeah. That urge for immediate gratification, the shiny new iPhone, the Black Friday deal on an air fryer you don't need.
We've all been there.
And the source contrasts this with the long game needed for wealth building. Things like paying off student loans, saving for a down payment, investing for retirement, stuff that requires patience.
So it's that classic battle. Instant reward versus future security.
Pretty much. The source says financially stable people tend to think way ahead, years, decades even.
Whereas those struggling might be operating more on
Vibes, according to the source.
vibes, right. Not exactly a solid financial plan.
Not really. So how do we get better at playing the long game?
Well, the source implies it's about consciously linking today's choices to tomorrow's goals. Visualizing that future you want, maybe. Realizing that skipping the impulsive buy today helps fund that bigger goal later.
Yeah, delayed gratification. It's tough, but crucial. Building wealth is definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, marathon mentality. Got it. What's next?
This one might be a bit awkward for some listeners. It's called Your Friends Are Financial Vampires.
Ooh, dramatic. Tell me more.
It's about how our social circle can sometimes unintentionally drag down our finances.
How so?
You know, friends who always encourage spending sprees you can't afford, or maybe they have weird ideas about investing, like it's all just gambling.
Or friends who kind of mock you for trying to budget. Oh, look at Mr. Miss Spreadsheet over here.
Exactly. The source calls them financial vampires because they can drain your money, yeah, but also your motivation, your joy in reaching your goals.
That's a really important, if sensitive, point. Peer pressure is powerful
Right.
financially, too.
It is, but the source also flips it, talking about the power of peer planning.
Peer planning. So like finding financially responsible friends.
Yeah, surrounding yourself with people who support your goals, who maybe share similar values about money, people who build you up, not tempt you to blow your rent money.
Choosing your financial influences wisely. That makes a lot of sense. Accountability partners, maybe?
Could be. Okay, moving on. Number 7, you don't track your spending because denial is a vibe.
Another vibe check. So basically, burying your head in the sand.
Pretty much. The source even starts with a little quiz. How much did you actually spend last week on, say, coffee or lunches out, if you have no clue?
Then that's the problem right there. You can't fix what you don't measure.
Bingo. It calls it financial amnesia. We just forget all those little purchases.
Those little leaks can sink the ship, right? The daily 500 snack.
The quick Uber that costs $2,000.
That streaming service you forgot you were paying $3,500 a month for.
Individually, maybe not huge, but add them up over a month.
Yeah.
A year.
Ouch. It really highlights the need for awareness. The source compares it to stepping on the scale before complaining your clothes don't fit. You need the data first.
Exactly. Gotta face the numbers, even if they're scary. Only then can you see where to make changes.
Okay, makes sense. Awareness is key.
Yeah.
What about unexpected costs?
Ah, yes. Point 8. Treating emergencies as surprises.
What does that mean? Emergencies are surprises, aren't they?
Well, yes and no. The source argues that while the timing might be a surprise, the fact that something will eventually go wrong isn't. Cars break down, phones crack, boilers give up.
Right. Life happens.
Exactly. So being broke when these things hit isn't just bad luck, according to the source. It's often a lack of preparation.
So the solution is the emergency fund we hear so much about.
That's the one. Having that buffer, ideally 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses stashed away in savings.
The financial safety net.
Yeah. The source calls it your financial Avengers team.
Huh. Okay, I like that. Ready to assemble when trouble strikes.
Exactly. It stops a minor inconvenience from becoming a major debt spiral. It gives you options, security.
Prevents you from having to make really bad choices under pressure. Got it. Essential stuff.
Definitely. Okay, almost there. Point 9 tackles a really common myth, the myth of more income as a universal fix.
Ah, the idea that if I just earned more, all my money problems would vanish.
Precisely that. But the source says, not necessarily.
Why not? More money seems like it should help.
It can, obviously, but if your underlying money habits are poor, more income can actually just amplify the problems.
How so?
Well, the source puts it like this. If you're bad at managing $50,000, you'll probably be even worse at managing $500,000. You just have more capacity for mistakes.
Lifestyle creep kicks in hard. Bigger income, bigger spending, same problems, just scaled up.
Exactly. Spending the whole paycheck just before the next one hits, regardless of whether it's a small check or a huge one, the habits are the core issue.
So it's about fixing the mindset and the systems first, not just chasing a higher salary.
That's the argument. Fix the leaks in the bucket before trying to pour more water in. True financial health needs both income and good management.
Right. One without the other doesn't really work long term.
Okay, last point. This one goes a bit deeper into the psychology of it all. Point 10, the self-defeating belief of being destined to be broke.
Wow. That sounds heavy. A poverty mindset.
Yeah. The idea that maybe because of how you grew up or what you've always seen around you, you just believe deep down that being broke is your fate, your default setting.
And that belief system would totally shape your actions, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. It leads to self-sabotage. Why bother saving if you believe you'll lose it anyway? Why try to invest if you think people like me don't get rich? Why even dream big?
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You act in ways that confirm your belief that you're destined to struggle.
Exactly. It's a really powerful and often hidden barrier. But the source offers a really hopeful counterpoint.
What's that?
It says, you're not stuck, you're just uninformed.
Ooh, I like that. It shifts it from destiny to knowledge.
Right. It takes the power back. It implies that the situation is changeable, that information is the key to breaking that cycle.
So how does someone trapped in that mindset start to shift it? Just learn more.
Seems to be the core message. Recognize the belief isn't fact. Seek out different information, success stories, practical steps. Challenge those ingrained assumptions. Knowledge is power, literally, in this context.
It reframes broke from a life sentence to just a current situation, a temporary state you can learn your way out of.
Exactly. It's empowering. It suggests financial freedom isn't reserved for a select few, but it's possible for anyone willing to learn, plan, and maybe resist buying that PS5 when rent is due.
The eternal struggle.
So wrapping it all up, the source leaves us with this really direct question. It's not just about asking, why am I broke anymore?
What should we ask instead?
What can I do differently?
Action-oriented, moving from diagnosis to treatment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It puts the ball back in your court. It says, okay, this is where you are now, but it's just a starting point. You have the power to change the trajectory.
A really positive and proactive way to end the discussion. Your current situation isn't the final chapter.